The left-wing lunatics are trying very hard to bring back COVID lockdowns and mandates with all of their sudden fear-mongering about the new variants that are coming. Gee whiz, you know what else is coming? An election. They want to restart the COVID hysteria so they can justify more lockdowns, more censorship, more illegal drop boxes, more mail-in ballots, and trillions of dollars in payoffs to their political allies heading into the 2024 election. Does that sound familiar? These are bad people. These are sick people we're dealing with. But to every COVID tyrant who wants to take away our freedom, hear these words: we will not comply. So don't even think about it. We will not shut down our schools. We will not accept your lockdowns. We will not abide by your mask mandates, and we will not tolerate your vaccine mandates. They rigged the 2020 election, and now they're trying to do the same thing all over again by rigging the most important election in the history of our country, the 2024 election, even if it means trying to bring back COVID. But they will fail because we will not let it happen. When I'm back in the White House, I will use every available authority to cut federal funding to any school, college, airline, or public transportation system that imposes a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
A lot on the line. Mike McCormick is in the House, President, Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. How are you? I'm
worried
about you being jacked up on blackburn syrup this morning. So,
did you? When's the last time you had blackburn syrup?
Man, I grew up on that stuff.
Oh, I did too. Well, there was another one too. Wasn't it Delta syrup?
Yeah, I don't know. We had blackburn syrup in my house.
We had that in Delta syrup for some reason, and you could buy it by the what was it, 300-pound kegs or something. I forgot what it was, but it's good to have you, sir. The the session is over. Just a little bit of an analysis and insight on what you think were the high points, low points.
Well, for Farm Bureau or for the whole session?
Well, no, just Farm Bureau number one is in that area.
Well, I think the most important thing that we've done in a long time is to pass a bill that kind of flew under the radar, and it was going to allow us to start a Farm Bureau health plan. So we're going to get in the health plan business, and it's going to create some flexibility for us to operate like 9 other of our sister states are doing, and hopefully bring some competition to this health care issue that we're having here in Mississippi.
We're talking does any other Farm Bureau do that?
Yeah, there's
in other states.
There's 10 states. There was 2 that passed this year.
Yeah.
Us in Nebraska last year, Arkansas. More to come next year, I think, and I think it'll be a good thing as we spread this across the U.S.
Commensurate to any other Blue Cross Blue Shield or something like that, hospitalization, everything else.
Yeah, what'll happen is we'll be able to go in with healthcare providers, like you mentioned, and talk to them about what we can do to help us set up our plan. We'll reinsure it through somebody. Some states are using different groups. United and Blue Cross are part of some of those networks and other places. So we'll find somebody to come in and partner with us and bring something to the market that I think everybody will be happy with.
Will be offered to all of your subscribers now?
You have to be a member. We are set up as a membership organization, so you would just have to be a member.
But you don't have to be a farmer.
No, you do not have to be a farmer. You just have to go by your local Farm Bureau office and buy a membership, which is $35, $40.
If you eat anything farmers produce, you can do it.
Absolutely, we'd love to have them, and it's a big issue for our farmers. I think the biggest impediment we've got for young kids coming out of college is if it's a guy that wants to come back and row crop farm, he pretty much needs a wife that's going to be a nurse or a school teacher or something that provides health care coverage for them because they can't do it in the long run. So maybe this will be a way to both of them can go back to the farm and work.
I don't think, Mike, people understand that even in our lifetime, as far as boomers are concerned, there's been a lot of diversity in crops in Mississippi. When we start talking to diversity of planting things, we never thought about it. We never thought about catfish prior to in our fathers' times. Well, I don't even think we had rice way back then.
To be a good farmer, you're going to have to be diversified. You can't carry all your eggs in one basket, and you gotta look into different things. And sometimes some of it's profitable, and sometimes other things are profitable. So you got to go with what works, and hopefully at the end of the year you turn a profit.
Here's a stupid question. Why don't we do sunflower seeds? Not seeds. Will sunflowers grow here?
Oh, yeah.
They should.
Yeah, they grow here well. I think it's a little bit better sort of in the arid parts of the Midwest where you don't get as much rain during harvest season to get them out. And we can grow some other stuff that's probably more profitable, but we definitely grow good sunflowers. We got a lot of dove hunters that grow their own sunflowers.
By the time you think of baseball players, people who love sunflower seeds to eat and birds and everything else, it's just they've got the market is there, and I've often wondered. You see those sunflower fields, and they're just absolutely gorgeous too.
Best thing about Mississippi is we're just so diverse. We can grow a lot of different things. It may not grow in the Delta. It may grow better in the hills or in North Mississippi or South Mississippi. But our farmers are blessed here with a great climate and soils that'll grow a lot of different things.
Are we increasing the acreage as far as hemp is concerned?
You know, I don't think so. I think really hemp, in my opinion, was something that was a precursor to medical marijuana, which is a precursor to probably recreational marijuana. But hemp needs to grow in a place that doesn't get a lot of moisture in a time when you're trying to harvest it. Understand the high grade stuff that you're using for CBD oil. It can't get wet when it gets harvested.
So what you're saying is we're just feeding the leftover hemp to emus now.
I don't know what they're doing with it, to be honest with you. There's not a lot of market for it. The people that are in other states like Kentucky that we talked to, a lot of their farmers went broke doing it. So
it has a lot in common with all of the hysteria attached to emus and things that we were talking about back then. Yes. All right, let's talk about the anything in the legislature that we had addressing this that you can report on foreign ownership of land, because that was one of the big things that we were addressing at the beginning of the session.
Yes, sir. We asked the legislature to put up a study committee year before last to look into this, to give us some guidance on what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And this year, Senator Tyler McConn introduced a bill that we helped work with other ag groups and through our ag committees, both in the Senate and the House. And it addressed the one thing that I think was most critical in this was we needed somebody in a state agency to oversee it, to be the regulatory agency, and somebody to prosecute if we do have people that are nefariously buying land here in Mississippi. So we determined that the Secretary of State was the right way to go with that. He's got the resources. He's over the public lands, and then the Attorney General will be the one that would prosecute anybody for doing this. So it severely limits the amount that a adversarial nation can own here in the U.S., and we feel like that we've got a good law now on the books.
So it doesn't prohibit it; it regulates how much.
Less than a controlling interest, and then no more than 500 acres. So when you're talking about the adversarial nations being China and some of their counterparts, it would not have an impact on agricultural land.
Was the location of that purchase mentioned in there next to a military installation, et cetera, et cetera?
What we decided to do was focus on ag land because that's what it was pitched to us, and we hope that someone will come back in and do something for a military basis because that's a whole different national security issue. So that'll have to be addressed, and we would encourage somebody to do that.
Grain grading.
So in Mississippi, we get a lot of rain in certain times of the year, and it affects soybeans. When me and you were growing up, those beans would stay in the field a long time, but they didn't yield very well. Now we've got racehorse varieties that yield really good, but whenever they're ready to harvest, you got to go get them, and they damage pretty quickly. So the damage can be assessed from one elevator to the next differently, and the grades can vary greatly. So what we did is just followed some of our sister states in requiring the Department of Agriculture to provide training for these people grading this grain. So hopefully our farmers can get a more uniform grading.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, and it'll be regulated by the Department of Ag, and that's where we are most connected with the Department of Ag here in the state. They're a regulatory agency, and we need them to do things like that.
We've got, new generations of farmers out there, farmers' kids and farmers' grandkids now with college degrees and everything else, and they know how to use digital. When we come back, just going to ask you this. are they incorporating AI? And it seems like that's one of the areas we don't talk about. But is AI part of the farm of the future? Back with Mike McCormick. I'm sitting here thinking, cat head biscuits with some blackburn syrup dripping in that, and a little Mississippi State cheese. We be taken care of there.
Yeah, you got to have that hot black coffee to cut all that, though, Paul.
Yes. What were you saying about you had a guy up in North Mississippi, the type of syrup that they make up there off of?
Yeah, we still have a big group up in North Mississippi that makes syrup out of sorghum. So one of my former employees up in Union County does it in a big way, and Senator Neil Whaley tells us that he's got the best in the whole wide world. So we need to get Neil down one day.
What's the name of it?
It's just
give a free plug here.
Yeah, it's just their homemade sorghum.
I got you. We have a lot of people producing honey too across the entire state, and
it's a big industry.
Good
here.
Stuff, real big industry here. Kudos to my grandson, my only grandson, who graduated from Mississippi State last week, and following the footsteps of Jerry Clower, he's got his degree in agriculture, and some oriented thing in agriculture, believe it or not, from a kid who's. The only time we've ever had him on a farm is I stopped and took some pictures of him one time when he was a kid in a cotton field because they were so beautiful out there with all the bulls. Well, but that's what he chose, and he loves it.
Ag is Mississippi's #1 industry, and it always will be just because of the great soils environment we've got here. And farmers are getting older. They're just like me, over 60 now, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity for young kids to come back, not necessarily just to the farm, but all the ancillary jobs that the farms support throughout Mississippi, lots of opportunities.
Speaking of which, we talked about AI. In chemical selections, in disease and everything else. Is that something you guys have been talking about, or do you think that's big in the industry?
Well, I think it'll be big for our world for sure. I just saw some research of top executives that are saying that about 70% of them think that it'll impact their business over the next 3 years. And very few of them believe that it won't over the next 5. So in agriculture, it won't be any different. We'll be transformed by it.
If people still think you're locked into the old Eddie Arnold Green Acres, if you don't know where high tech is probably playing out on the farm in America, more so just almost as equal to any place else.
Yeah, it's not your grandfather's farms and overalls anymore. It's a really high tech, high business feel right now.
I know you wanted to talk about the Mac Huddleston's Veterinarian Scholarship, and before we left, so please tell me what's going on with that.
We have a critical shortage of veterinarians for rural Mississippi that's willing to work on large animals. So we have thanked Dean Hoblet, the former dean of the vet school, and now Dean Frank, for recognizing that. It's a national problem, but here in Mississippi, we addressed it this year by starting a vet scholarship that will repay loans for students that's willing to go back and at least do, hopefully, at least 30% that's required, more than that, hopefully, to a rural area of the state that needs some of this support. So if we can help them pay back their loans, they don't have to go to a big city and do dog and cat work. That gives them the opportunity to be able to go back. And then the other part of that is we were able to secure $18 million to upgrade the Wise Center, the vet school at Mississippi State, to have a new diagnostic program, new cattle facilities for large animal vets. So we're going to support the loan repayments, and then we're going to give them better training. So hope we can get these people back to support our livestock industry.
Mike, you might have mentioned this and I might have missed it, but that's also inclusive of people who are vets now who want to go back and extend that to large animals?
Well, I guess they could go back and do that, but it's going to be a yearly thing. So if somebody's in school for their freshman year, Dean Franks is going to be the one that administers. But I would suggest, I would feel like that he would give it to a student each year that's willing to commit to go back, and then they would have to pay the loan back if they don't.
Funding for the new multimodal fund. I have no idea what that's about.
That is a great plan that I got selected to be on the committee for, and it's going to provide extra state money for ports and rails and airports. We got $30 million in there last year, and we were able to to leverage that with about $120 million worth of federal funds because we had that to put up for a match. This year we only got $10 million. There was a lot of ask around the legislature. So we'll take that 10, we'll leverage it into more and get some more infrastructure put in here that helps all of us.
What does that turn into, bricks and mortar? I mean, does it turn into a different port, a larger port, a deeper port? What does that turn into?
So they put in a grant proposal for what they want to do. Some of them's bought cranes. Some of them have wanted to redo the railroad between Rosedale and Greenville, and those things can be vetted through a process, and the best projects are selected.
You've thrown some stuff at me today. $30 million for the ERBRF.
We wanted $100 million. We've been getting that about every year, and that helps local county roads and bridges where our farmers are using to get their crops to markets.
How much did you get?
We got $30 million. We got $60 million reauthorized in the process. So we'll take the 30, and we've still got a massive amount of needs in the state, and we'll continue to work with the legislature to keep supporting that fund.
Okay. And lastly, the funding for river gauges along the Pearl River banks.
I'm really proud of that. It's only $92,000, but it's going to allow us to buy some gauges to put on the lower Pearl. We've been called to some meetings by landowners there. They're very concerned about the bank degradation that they're seeing. They're losing their property quickly, and all of them have a reason that they believe that that's happening. But if we can get these gauges put out there, we can get some scientific data to show that is the river going up too fast and is it going down too fast. And then we've got to secure money for the Pearl River, and we need a lot more for that.
Any update as far as the Yazoo pumps?
I haven't heard anything lately. It's been pretty quiet. I'm sure that they're working behind the scenes to get that project completed, but it'll take a while to get it done, but I'm confident we're going to go in that direction.
Oh, you are optimistic, aren't you?
I am. I'm a farmer. You have to be, or you wouldn't do this.
When you any outlook on the crops up in the Delta area, how they look right now, how much is in the ground?
It's awful early, and we got a lot of rain, 7 inches down my way last night.
Wow.
And the night
7
before.
inches?
Yes, it started raining Sunday and rained all the way through Monday morning.
And we have some rain this morning still headed to. Well, we got some about 9 o'clock last night. Some thunderstorms moved through the central part, but in the northern part of the state, there's some moving up toward Oxford in that area. So, remember last year, though. Again, I keep mentioning this. We got to a point in July. All of a sudden, boom! It stopped, and it was near December before it turned back on.
There's a prediction that we're going to go from El Nino to La Nina or one or the other, and I think we're going to hit some dry spells again this summer. So
well, and I heard from some people that it won't be as hot as it was last year because of that. Then I heard some people said it's going to be as hot or hotter, so I have no idea.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think it's important.
If we're lucky, we'll see.
I think it's important for us to get a farm bill pushed across now. Since we've got the legislature out of town, our focus is on farm bill and trying to get that out so we do have some protections in case some disaster like that hits again.
What does a new administration, as far as more conservative with a Trump in the White House, mean to farmers as far as regulations are concerned?
Well, I think we'll get refocused on ag trade across the globe. We haven't done any trade agreements over the last several years. I think we had Representative Austin Scott here last week, who's vice chair of the House Ag Committee, and he said that we only use 10% or less than 10% of the whole farm bill that actually are for farm programs. So hopefully we can focus on the things that help our farmers and maybe not so much on the other.
I'll ask you this because, and Trump alluded to it a little bit earlier on that opening statement there, but is the bird flu going to be a big story? And how will it affect us? Well,
you never know how that thing's going to go, but right now I think we did a great job isolating it and keeping it out of the food chain from a livestock standpoint. Now, it continues to be really problematic for our people in the poultry industry, so they're doing all they can for biosecurity to keep that stuff out of the houses, but it seems to find its way in there. But right now, as far as what you heard in the milk supply, I think we've got that covered pretty closely right now.
In the milk supply, and also it's transferring over to humans is what some people want you to believe?
I don't believe. I think there's only one documented case, and it was the one isolated incident in Texas where the cattle had it, and before we knew what was going on, and maybe somebody wiped his eye and he had a little infection in one eye, and that's the only known thing that we've had. But if you pasteurize your milk, it proves that all of that is safe, even if it's some dead particles in there. But they're doing a fantastic job of testing all of this, keeping it out of meat supplies, out of milk supplies. So I think we're pretty safe.
Anybody out there need to sell their dairy cattle? Anybody want to buy a dairy out there? How's that looking? Anybody need a little extra work?
Well, that's a hard business to stay in.
It is a tough business.
And you got to really love it. We've got some really good ones here in the state of Mississippi, and we haven't had this problem, an issue in Mississippi, so hopefully we can stay away from it.
Proud of our farmers, man.
Thank you.
Big part of our state.
Thank you.
All right. Look, Mike, thank you, sir. Always appreciate you. Don't be a stranger.
Yes, sir. Have me back anytime.
You got it. Leslie Lee, Executive Director of the Jimmy Rogers Festival. More on that coming up on the other side.